Welcome to For Mannerless Women, a space nurturing a new generation of shame-free women who are ready to meet their best selves. I'm your host, Adelle Onyango, and in this episode, we talk about a topic that we often run away from, death, by meeting a death doula called Joy. I am so excited to have you on the show first and foremost, Joy.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for making time, and I am so intrigued.
Everyone usually is.
So intrigued.
Yeah.
So let's make sure we're all on the same page first and foremost, right? So what is a death doula?
To put it simply, I always try to explain things like I'm explaining it to my 4-year-old daughter.
Please.
The way we have a birth doula, it helps
bring life.
A death doula helps someone as they transition out of life. Maybe the person themselves who's transitioning or the family of the person that's transitioning. So that's basically what a death doula is. Your partner in the end of life.
So what does help look like? Does it look like, because when I think about death in terms of the community, experiencing the death of a loved one, I think of everything from the stress of dealing with shags to organizing to emotions as well. So what does help look like?
The shags bit maybe not so much because culturally I think we're all different. It's hard for me to plug into a culture that I'm not knowledgeable about. But in terms of the admin work, the organization, someone to listen without judgment, without giving you advice, without telling you, it is well. God loved them more. God plucked his straw. I really
God
hate
knows.
those.
I
hate those platitudes. So it's just someone who comes in and allows you to be present in whatever it is that's happening, whether it's the denial, whatever emotion it is that's happening for you as someone is dying or someone has died, and takes over all the admin and all of the organization and all of the things happening inside the house, all of the small things, making sure you drink water. I think we had a conversation about this yesterday.
That is so
making sure you eat, if it's budgeting for the funeral, if it's finding suppliers. So I don't like to call it a funeral planner because it goes way beyond that. There's a really strong emotional and physical support that is involved in death doulaing. So I wouldn't limit it to funeral planning. It goes way beyond that.
I love that, the drinking of water and the eating. When my mom passed away, I had 2 aunts who basically were death doulaing me, if that's a term.
It's a term.
Just holding chicken to my mouth and making sure you've drunk water.
Yeah, because you forget.
Yeah.
You forget.
So why? Because this is the thing. When we talk about death, even somebody watching this episode may feel like, why are we inviting this thing? You know, you hear people say, let's not talk about it, let's not invite it, even though it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So there is this fear we have about this thing that's inevitable, death, that I have never met someone who, everybody's running away from it. It's I'm going to work right there. So why did you decide to become a death doula?
Because I'm afraid of death. So I have I find comfort in knowing I have control about things. And I think in everything we go through life, death is the one thing we cannot absolutely control. So my wanting to be a death doula was just to arm myself with so much knowledge that I demystify death for myself. Maybe hopefully reduce the fear. I don't know if my partner is here. I don't know if it's reduced.
Yeah.
But then in time, then pass on that knowledge and just create a space where we can talk about death in all its forms, whether it's the anticipatory grief, whether it's what do I do? How will I survive? You know, how do you even manage the death process? So in learning for myself, it's sort of like paying it forward to others and trying to reduce my fear and the fear that others have around death. So just normalizing the conversation. I mean, if we can talk about, we invest so much time, energy in birth doulaing. You will take Clamas classes, you will go see the guy.
Even your playlist is ready.
Yeah, I had like several playlists for when I was going to give birth, but we don't sort of invest the same energy, emotion, time when it comes to death. So that was the main reason, I think, for me.
And like, have you noticed there's a shift in your relationship with death from before you became a death doula to now? Like, do you view it differently? Is there still a fear?
The fear, I don't think the fear leaves you. I always joke with my family and my friends that, man, I hope I die before you guys, because man, I'm not going to bury you homies.
Yeah.
I don't think the fear has left me. I don't know if it's possible to reach that sort of level of, emotional elevation where death is not something you're scared of. And we're having this discussion about whether, is it that my faith, the things I ask myself, is it that my faith is in God is not strong enough that I have not been able to fully release the fear of death, because what happens after? Like,
and they're not knowing.
So in that sense, I don't think I'm less afraid, but I'm not completely without fear of it. However, I sit more comfortably in spaces where death is being talked about or death is happening. I sit in those spaces more with ease because I'm armed with the knowledge of exactly what is happening, and I can see a few steps ahead, and then I can support people in that way because I'm able to see exactly what's going on, whether it's emotionally, whether it's physically. Yeah.
I feel like I used to, after I lost my mom, so I lost my mom in 2012, and I would always say, oh, I'm not scared of death, I'm scared of grief. And like the more I process grief, because I don't think it's like, I used to think it's a thing that, okay, it's going to take 6 years and then it's done. You know what I mean? And in fact, at the beginning, I was like 1 year. And then after a year, it's like, okay, maybe 3. It's ongoing. But now I don't fear grief because I kind of understand the emotions that come with it and that it's okay to feel broken by someone's absence. I'm not sure I fear my own death. I'm like, please, can it not be painful?
That's actually...
Please.
Yeah, so in the course that I did, so we were talking about Alua Arthur yesterday, so I took her course called Going with Grace.
Okay, so who is she? And
Alua Arthur is like, I want to call her the mama of death.
Yes, yeah.
Is that a good way to describe her?
I think so, because that was the first time I ever had of a death doula. So she's, I want to say American, but like with African heritage, right?
She actually... part of her childhood was in Kenya.
Oh, wow. Yeah, okay, I did not know that.
Yeah, part of her childhood was actually in Kenya. So
I heard her talk about being a death doula, and every birthday, she kind of does an audit about how prepared she is for her death. And I was just like, what?
Same.
Like, I go look for a swimming pool. Like, people are doing an audit. And so so then we spoke about, I think I posted about her, and then you said, hey, I'm a death doula. And I was like, we have a death doula in Kenya. This is
I think we are many. I think we just don't call it that. So part of the course was planning or thinking about your own death.
First there is a course to be a death doula.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a course for everything.
Yeah.
So there's a course to be a death doula. And actually, when I went down into the wormhole doing my research about death, it was shocking for me, like in the Western world. It's so normal. There are so many. It's even a university course, like end of life partner. So it has the name has different variants, but the courses are there. And the reason I loved Alua so much is I was obsessed with her sister, Bozoma, because in my previous life, I was a marketer and I thought I was going to be this marketing guru chick. And so I was obsessed with Bozoma. But then through Bozoma, I found Alua and then found her school.
Okay.
And so the course takes you through everything, the stages of dying, how to be present when someone is dying. But then even as you're learning about taking care of the dying and the family of the dying, there are prompts and triggers to think about your own death.
Okay.
So like there was a part in the course where you had to think about what is a good death for you.
Oh, wow.
So like for you, you're saying it shouldn't be painful.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, if I died in water, I would be so happy.
Oh, wow. Wait, like...
Yeah, I love the water. Like, or somewhere where there's water, if it's by the beach.
Yeah.
I don't want to die at home because I don't want to traumatize or shift the energy in my home. I'd rather die in hospital, and I'd rather it be quick.
That's so interesting. I don't think I've ever thought of where. That is
you
so
must think about where. Yeah. With music, with, you know, because music is everything to me. I'm constantly listening to music. So I want to die to music. I don't know if I want to be surrounded by my loved ones because I don't know what that trauma will do to them. But I want to have been able to say goodbye to everyone in whatever way that means. Most of my siblings, actually all of my siblings are not in the country. So like God planned it so that they can come or we can see each other one last time, have a last prayer. So I think about my death all the time. I think about my partner's death all the time.
Yeah.
I think about my baby's death all the time. And so the thing Alua said, I think in one of her TED Talks is any conversation about death is a conversation about living.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's like you remember the impermanence of like, I could be here with you and I go out the gate and I'm knocked by a car.
So I have to be in this moment.
Exactly. What experience did I leave you with? Or am I holding a grudge? Am I angry at? We won't say his name or whatever. So it's always, for me, I try to go a bit lightly because I remember every day we could die and it could be any of us at any time. The comforting thing is research has shown that most of the deaths are not like sudden. It's usually disease or age. So then that also comforts. Okay, so
in terms of control even, right?
Yeah, like maybe I won't get hit by a bus. If I do, cool, but then maybe it'll be disease for most of us or old age. Or so then there's sort of a predictability in how your body, what happens in your body as you die. Yeah.
And so I want to go back to unpack this why. Because most people, I would say, when you're scrolling through courses, like with the free courses or like uni, you're like, I'm currently looking at like psychology courses and like somatic therapy. And if I saw Death Doula, I'd be like, nope, 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 nope. Like, so like, was there, was it only curiosity or was there an experience?
No, it was an absolute experience. So when I was thinking about it, preparing for this conversation, I feel like I started doulaing a long time ago. My partner lost his mom in 2010. And he was away. We were friends then, just boy. Yeah. My nigga. Friend zone. But he was away. And while he was away, I stepped into his family home to take care of his sisters, figure out food, offer comfort before he came in to provide the covering that he did. So in a sense, it's just, I don't know if it's because I'm strong administratively that it sort of, that side of things comes easy to me. But the emotional bit is I had, because I'm Jango, and you know, we don't have uncles and aunties. We have babas and mamas. So my dad's, in my dad's older brother's family, there was a lot of death that happened sort of back to back. My cousin brother died in 2014. His, I want to say, was sudden because it was a cough, turned out to be pneumonia. And because we're Kenyan and because they're men, you don't go to the hospital. So he died within like, I think 2 weeks of a cough developing. So that was traumatic, but not as traumatic as his father's death. So my uncle Baba had been sick for a while. You go into Kenyan hospitals, it's H. pylori, it's gastritis, or it's all these things. And then he was admitted into hospital, I want to say maybe June, July of 2018. And then they discovered it was cancer and it was stage 4.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And then because we're Africans, we always want to avoid the conversation of what does this mean. Lucky for me, his oncologist was a high school friend of mine. And so when she sat the family down and briefed everyone in a room and said, okay, so it's stage 4. This is the treatment protocol we're going to follow. When everyone left the room, I asked her how long. And she said, between now and 6 months. And I always say he was the first love of my life. I always cry when I talk about this. When I would beef with my parents, it's his house we would go to. I watched my first movie in his house. He introduced me to Sound of Music and The King and I. And so he still has a really strong place in my heart. But when we got the diagnosis, I learned now what I was doing was sitting bedside. So sitting bedside is when you keep the dying person company.
Okay.
So I worked in film at the time, and I had the best bosses because they allowed me to work remotely. So every day I would wake up, brush my teeth, dress up, pick my laptop bag, go and work on the side of his bed. And I watched him progressively die. But what happened in the hospital is I learned it's so important to have someone there if you're able, because then you can be an advocate for their care.
Okay.
So in times when he was in pain and, the process, if staff are overwhelmed, you ring the bell, no one will come. I would go and scream my lungs out. And the nurses like, come now. If he needed to use the bathroom, because culturally, again, it's like, no, you're not the one who can take it. Just all the hang-ups. So I advocated for his care. I understood exactly what was going on. Every given day, I could update the larger family because his children were also abroad. Only one of my cousins is here. I would record voice notes. I would record videos for all my cousins. So if he had a message for someone or he wanted to talk to someone, I would call them. I found out that all his stuff was in a certain briefcase. It's like he knew he was dying.
Oh, wow.
Like, so old school. He went into hospital with his briefcase with his title deed. So he would pass on all these messages. Have you heard from this person? Let me call them. And then because of that, I was able to call now my own brother and sister and tell them, I think you guys need to come home and say goodbye. And so they were able to come. And I think within a week, it was a week, right? Within a week of them coming, my Uncle Baba transitioned and he died at home. But now with the knowledge I have, he was like, is it called consciously dying?
I was going to ask you, like, is it a process? Because I think we look at death as like...
No, it's an absolute process. The color of his skin changed. He had shallow breathing. He was patchy. He had hallucinations. So we call them hallucinations, but it is believed they're end-of-life visitations. So you would have conversations with people who are not in the room.
Are these people who had passed on?
Yes.
Or like, so it's not really a like he's not
For
created,
me then, it was a hallucination. Like I'm sitting in the room, it's the two of us.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to? And then he had a surge where his appetite had completely dropped. He was not eating, he was not drinking. And then one day he had like a fantastic appetite. We had, my friend sneaked in chocolate cake. We ate chocolate cake.
Yeah.
He was a sweet tooth. We had sweets. And then I learned that thing is called the surge.
Like where there's
like a
energy.
burst of either energy, increase in appetite. If they were not talking, they suddenly had all the stories in the world. And then because of the surge, we were like, okay, I think he can go home. We can continue care at home. And I think he was only home for 3-4 days before he died. The thing about being there in that way meant that I sort of suppressed down the grief, I guess.
Because you were now at what needs to be done, this, know, and there's someone you knew personally, very intimately.
Yeah.
So
and
then now...
he was like my dad's best friend. So I'm like, okay, so I have to cover my dad. I have to do this. And then because of the experience of burying my cousin, I have it's very weird. I have folders that I can just change the name of the folder and give you everything you need to manage the death of your person. And so then it went into the admin work. And because we are jungle, we will...
It's 3 weeks. On a good run.
On a good run, it's 3 weeks.
Easily hit 4 weeks.
Yeah, so then I was deep in planning, budgeting, picking coffins, his clothes, just the whole thing.
There's a lot.
And so I didn't deal with it. And so when we come from the burial, I'm driving to work. I'm with my brother. I drop him off somewhere. And as I'm driving into work, I can't breathe. I'm feeling tingly. I'm like, okay, it's a wrap. I'm gone.
Yeah.
And then I see one of my colleagues walking into the building and I shout his name. I'm like, something is wrong. I'm dying. And my partner was in China, I think, for work. So he wasn't there. So I'm like, call Cliff. I was saying, call Cliff, tell him I'm dying.
Yeah.
And so we rushed, it was like a scene from ER. We rushed to Nairobi Hospital. and they put me on a gurney and I'm rushed into the emergency room and they strip off my clothes and, they're putting things on me and I'm like, oh my God, this cannot be how I die. It was a panic attack.
That's what I was going to say, because they're listening to you. You're saying you're dying and they need to make sure like...
Yeah, it was a panic attack. I knew I was gone. Like I can't believe after all that drama I was eating KFC at the end of the day. But I knew I was gone. And so the doctor was like, okay, you're having a panic attack. I'm like, what is that? Because I'd never had those in my life. And she was like, okay, has anything traumatic happened in your life? And I'm like, no, nothing traumatic has happened.
Yeah.
But then now having to sit with, okay, maybe that was a lot.
And no, maybe for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so because of that, and there's something me and my partner always say, that the personal is universal. I'm like, I cannot be the only one who feels like I should have had more support. And there should have been someone outside of me working with all of us to figure this thing out. And so that was the triggering incident. And that's what led me. I'm like, no, there has to be something I can do with all this pain. It has to have a purpose. It just can't be for the sake. And then that's now what led me into the death work. Yeah.
I'm really sorry about your uncle. And I have to say, the process, I feel like the emotions you were feeling were probably not only the grief part, but like the caregiving, did you say sitting bedside? Takes a lot, right?
Caregiving exhaustion is something that we also don't talk about. And I think the reason we don't talk about it locally is because it's what's expected of you. If your family member is aged or sick or dying, then it's something you have to do. And so even this death work is changing this. The care does not have to come from a family member. Or even if it does, they need someone they can tag and say, I need a break. I just need 2 days. Can you just come, chill, manage this thing? Or I need company when we're going to the hospital. I need someone who will be able to take in what the doctor is saying and relay that to other people in a way that everyone can understand. Because doctors are not really allowed to tell you you're dying.
Yeah.
You know. But if you're there and you see the signs, it's like, okay, it's looking like this is end of life. And then what plans are in place? And it's the weirdest thing. The things we don't think about. We're having the conversation yesterday. Who has keys to your house?
Yeah.
Who has your ATM?
I was going to say, like, what does preparing for my death look like? So personally, I just ask the ancestors, please no pain. Like that's my recurring kind of like request of just like, I know it's gonna come, but you know me and pain. So can I just pass in my sleep, right? I recently moved out of Nairobi and I live alone. And I remember one of my panic moments in therapy was like, what if I collapse? And then I'll be found 4 days later, etc., right? So what does preparing look like?
Emotionally, there's therapy. I mean, to talk about death and why we're afraid of it. And I don't know if there's anything that can really prepare you for it. But administratively, there's so much you can do.
Okay.
Who has copies of your ID? I was going to mention something that I should not mention, but, did you ever contribute to NSSF? Where are your bank accounts? Who's your relationship manager? You have drums, and we talked about it yesterday. Where do your clothes go? How easy is it for someone to plug into your home right now and know this is what Adele wanted, without leaving people with the burden of first dealing with the grief and then the burden of care of figuring everything in your life out, Did she say she banked with no, she didn't bank with.
She used to complain about.
Yeah, but who was her business partner? If she's paying salaries, how is that process managed? If there was, so there's that whole bit where you can actually make it easier for those you leave behind. And that's part of the process that I also guide as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. And it's like, do you feel like we should be having that process, like those conversations and starting that process before any activating event? Because we do wait for like, I'm sick now, or...
I think it's so important. And my partner and I have been working on putting together a trust for everything that concerns us. So if I die before him, or he dies before me, or we both die and we leave our baby and our parents, and then there's someone who has all the information regarding our family and what our death wishes are. people are scared to do it because it's like, if I'm actively planning for my death, then I'm calling death upon myself. And I was having this discussion with my mom. She's like, why you do things? And it's not even about that. And I keep telling my parents, because I am the only child they have here. If you die before me, make it easy for me. You know, like living minimalistically is also a way. Like I don't have to sift through all your stuff, you know. If it's documents that you have, just making sure they're in a place that's accessible and someone knows exactly. And I think even legally, because of just culturally how we are, you don't want an uncle coming to say, but Adele said I could take her house.
And then culturally, I'm the next I'm the oldest son in the home, so this is mine.
This belongs to me.
Yeah.
So all that whole mess that just stresses people and denies them the process of sitting in the grief and dealing with the loss. I think it's so important. It makes life easier for everyone. So why not?
I think one of the things is like clothes. I think sometimes we forget. I know it sounds so trivial, but like clothes and like your everyday things. Or even like in my case, my drum kits. That's something I've never thought about like, where would my drum kit go? I'm like, good question,
just be
Joy.
rotting in your house.
Yeah, I'm like, I do not know, you know.
It could be the smallest and the biggest things, but whatever is important for you. Maybe you play drums, but it's not that important to you. But whatever is important to you, with your sister, like if she's the one who has to manage everything for you, is she armed with the knowledge? Does she know where stuff is, you know? Or if you decide things you don't think about, we fill in this pension forms or insurance forms and you put next of kin and you haven't even told them, by the way, Adele, at this place I put you as my next of kin and this is the person and this is how I make the contributions and or if you have standing orders. Your standing orders, you're gone
and you've never talked about
could just be sending your money out without, you know. So people have to know.
And it's so interesting with like next of kin because I realized, and my mom passed away in 2012, she was my next of kin when I was opening so many things. Like I was in my early 20s, so bank accounts, whatever. And I'm like, have I updated those documents? Like it's not something you actively think about, right?
Yeah.
But I was wondering, even when you're talking about walking with a family after the loss of a loved one, doesn't mean even afterwards. So like with clothes, like the everyday things. Because sometimes maybe the bank accounts and the land and the house, we go there because those are the big things.
It's everything.
But the everyday, like how are we going to fold
where
the clothes? Where the clothes going to go?
Do you want to keep something? Do you not?
So is that something you would walk with a family?
Yeah. It's the whole entire if you want to have the discussion before, even now as you're not sick and nothing is going on with your life, like if it's a guide for this is the best way you could do it, here's a lawyer you can talk to. If it's a health issue, here's the doctors I've seen who have handled this thing in the best way possible. And we have the same GPs, so you know we believe in those chicks strongly.
Yeah.
And also the importance of actually, because we know that most of us will die from disease or old age, I feel like every family should have a GP. Right?
Like
it's
a family
a family doctor who holds all the information about everyone's health and then who's like the center, because how we deliver care locally is if I have a cough, I'll go to Aga Khan.
Yeah.
And then maybe the cough worsens, Aga Khan is closed, I'll go to Nairobi.
Yeah.
And
it's
then
a different doctor.
It's a different doctor. And then, so no one knows that can say, and I'll give a story. So one of our very good friends had a cough for, I want to say 3-4 months. And doctor's like, but why aren't you getting better? We've nebulized you. Because she consistently went to the same doctor about the issue. The doctor called out and said, I think you need to go for an MRI scan. And turned out she had a pulmonary embolism.
Wow.
And if we did this habit of going to this doctor...
They would treat it as a cough first. Like,
exactly.
Before they arrived at what it could be, they wouldn't get the chance because she's moved to someone else.
And that was only, her life was saved because of the consistency in care with someone who has a track record of your health. So even for families, I think it's so important, because if you're going to die from disease, and none of us are medics, you need the person who will interpret all this language, because that's one of the things we struggled with my baba is, okay, you're saying this thing, but what does it mean? He didn't have a GP, so there's no one you could call and say, so this is what's happening, where they can say, maybe let's seek a second opinion, or how about we do this? Can we call the doctor? Can we have a call where we can dumb the information down so that everyone can understand what's going on? So I think even that we're demanding that we get good care for our families, and that one doctor, just like it's one lawyer who holds all your legal stuff, it's one doctor who holds all your health issues, who can say, actually, Adele was here last week and she was complaining of a headache.
And so we had the same issue 3 months ago.
Exactly. So we don't, I think when we're in good health, we never think about those things, but they are so important. Yeah.
So the other thing I'm so curious about is the feeling in a room when you are, did you say sitting bedside is what you called it? And somebody is dying. The process of dying is happening. What does it spiritually feel like in that room?
It's where death has a smell even before someone has died.
What do you mean?
Death has a smell.
So like when you say like...
It has a smell, it has an energy.
Like a smell like...
I don't know
like
how
bacon has been made in the morning. It's melted, or like...
Okay,
jig.
not the bacon.
Can smell jig.
I don't know how to describe it, but if you think about it after you've been around someone who's dying, you'll be like, oh, that's what that was. And death has an energy, and sometimes it's not necessarily a heavy, it's thick but not heavy. I don't know. It's like it's a lot.
Yeah.
It may not be heavy.
Energy-wise,
it's a lot. It may not be heavy, but you feel it. You just like... And most of the time, we don't know that's what it is. And then you're like, oh, so that's what that energy was. That's what that feeling is. For my uncle, in hindsight, I felt it. I felt it so strongly. But you don't know what to do with it. So you run away. So like when I would feel funny, I'd go down to I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sweet. I'm trying to pull a sweet. To distract yourself from it. But the thing I've learned from Alua and other death doulas, it's so important to sit in it. And not in a way that you're judging whatever that feeling is. It just is. It is what it is, and there's nothing you can do about it, and you can't change it, and you're not supposed to change it. You're supposed to respect it and honor it. Like for my uncle, because he died at home, and we're Django, and we're so dramatic.
We're a lot.
I walked in, and my wish was that there was silence. That was my wish for but because we literally walked in a few minutes after he had died, and some of my aunties already and I wished for that moment there could be silence, but because I felt it needed to be a silent energy doesn't mean everyone else in the room.
Exactly.
People will deal how they want to deal, and it's okay. And so everyone can do with that energy what they wish. For some, it would be you're flailing on the ground. For others, my cousin Rose was just sitting in silence. My father was crying. I was dazed, and then I just went into admin mode. Okay, we need to go to Kilimani police station. We need to do this, because no one was thinking about those things. I have Lee on speed dial. Like I know if a death happens at home, this is what you do. This is how you...
Even hearing you say we need to call the police station, not many people know if somebody dies at home, you actually have to get the police
because
involved.
The funeral home will not accept the body if you do not have the documentation. So people are allowed to do with that energy whatever it is that they want. For me, I always wish it could be silent, so that as someone is dying, and it's just a me thing, you're not bombarded with all this energy. I think we should allow people to live peacefully, but that's a me thing.
And it's funny because I remember, so my dad died in 2007. And that was like the first really close to home funeral. I'd been to one funeral before when I was younger, and I think all that gave me was just a bit of nightmares, because I was just like, why do people look grey? And like as a kid, you can imagine, right? But with my dad's in Shags, because he's Luo, it's like the screaming that was very, and I guess nobody prepares you for that because it's normal, right? And I remember just being like, what? Why? Like, what's going on? And then with my mom, there was like the same thing, etc. But with time and with age, I started to think, oh, maybe is it some form of therapy? Like, you know how you, like when you scream, you release and stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe we had like a cultural knowledge of how to work with our nervous system to get something out. So now I'm just like, oh, okay, if they're not the professional ones that have been paid.
The ones who, when the food comes out, they're quiet because now they're like, we just came for the food, guys.
Yeah.
We just came for the food.
But like when it's like real family or people had a connection to the person who's passed on, I'm like, oh, maybe they are releasing. This makes them feel better. And at the end of the funeral, you kind of look at them and like, yeah, they look calmer than the rest of us who were like, holding it in. So it's, I guess it's true what you're saying. It's different for everyone.
It's different for everyone.
What does the care, the aftercare for you look like? Because for me, any funeral is triggering. In fact, I, in part, get scared for the people who are close in my life who still have both their parents. I get scared because I'm like, oh my God, what is statistically coming is going to be hectic. But then there's also a selfish fear of like, oh no, that means I have to be at a funeral that is so close and I'm so helpless and like you're falling apart. And then it's going to remind me of my mom's funeral. And that's just me who doesn't have to like confront this often.
It's okay for you to be triggered. It's okay for all of us to be triggered. And I think we're having this discussion yesterday where I'm very privileged because the closest deaths to me are yet to happen. And so that's not lost on me. I don't know what that aftercare looks like. I don't know yet, but I'm big on therapy. I'm big on burdening my partner. I'm not afraid to sit. I think one of the things I used to do was be avoidant with the pain. And so I was keeping myself busy, trying to silence whatever it is I needed to come up. I am much better at allowing it just to come up. And it is what it is. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. If I'm feeling heavy about this and I cannot go today or I cannot support that person today, then it's absolutely okay. Sometimes it hurts people's feelings and I'm aware of that if I'm not able to engage in a way that someone wants me to engage. But it's important to know that today I'm not going to be able to engage in that way and it's okay. Before I'll be burdened by guilt, like, no, but now, but what? And now I'm just okay with being judged for withdrawing, especially because a lot of my doula work is from my close friends and my family. I'm okay if my family thinks you're just so distant. Yes, I am.
Yeah. And that's what you need in that moment.
In that moment, that's what I need. And if I'm able to take the steps back and then I come. And the thing I learned also from, I'm trying to remember which podcast or a TED Talk I watched, is when you're dealing with a dying and you're dealing with families who have someone actively dying or they are bereaved, we have the habit of showing up with empathy. And empathy will mean I'll do for you what I wish someone would do for me.
Okay.
And it may not necessarily be the thing that you need. But when you show up with compassion, then it looks like Adele needs a burger versus Adele needs to shower. She's not showered in days. You may not even need, you may be like, showering is not a priority in my life right now, food is. So now the difference between showing up with empathy and showing up with compassion is also something that I'm learning. Because compassion allows you to sit. I always tell guys, I sit and I read the room and I read energies because I've learned to sit with compassion. Empathy, you'll just enter, keep yourself busy. And I'm not discounting the busyness that needs to happen around someone dying or a death or whatever it is. But compassion will allow you to. And I'm so comfortable. If I just come and I sit quietly in the corner, now I'm comfortable. Before I felt I would need to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, Jango, PTSD. Just like, you have to keep yourself busy.
There's always action, right? Like, there's never any calm now that I think about it.
Nowadays, I'm just like, okay, so this has happened. Okay. And I just sit.
That is so illuminating in terms of the compassion versus empathy thing, because when someone... when I think about even my mom's funeral, and that period of 3 weeks, it's like people want to feel the moment with things and with words, right? And sometimes
that's why we tell you it is well.
It is well, and this is God's plan, etc. And I remember a friend talking to me about the grief period, and it's like, what would you have wanted? I'm like, honestly, when I think about it, I guess maybe just clean up and like do the things that I can't really get out of bed to do. We don't even have to talk. Like you just go into the kitchen and do what needs to be done. Yeah. And then it also made me, because I'd never asked myself, what did you really need in that moment? It made me start arriving when it comes to funerals much differently, because a house does need certain things to run. But I want you to sit in stillness, right? Yes. With your grief. So, okay, so what do I need to do so that joy doesn't need to get out of bed to do this necessarily, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's so interesting. So as we wind up, what can we learn about life from death?
A friend of ours says, here and now is all we have. And so for me, when I wake up and I am deep in perimenopause, so I'm so forgetful. You know, that is, you wake up, you're like, what is that? You rush into what is supposed to happen in the day. Like, you probably woke up and said, snap.
Yeah.
I have to come to Nairobi.
Yes.
So that you don't take time to, okay, and I do it all the time. I could be in traffic and I'm like, Actually, over the weekend, I was joining James Gishuru and there was some guy in a rush and he swerved to overtake in front of me. And in that process of overtaking, he hit a matatu, hit him. No one got hurt, but the airbags were deployed and there was all this drama. He was bleeding, the passenger was bleeding. And I was like, wait, that could have been me. So then you think, okay, should I have spoken to Adele? Should I call my mom? Should I have been shot with my baby? Is there something in me that still needs to, like, I feel like if I have done this, then I'm fine. You know, like all these things you put off. I'll do it one day. Yeah. I'll call him one day. I'll talk to her one day. I think every day in the morning. And I've started listening to chimes, wind chimes, when I drive sometimes, because I've also learned I have the habit of filling the silence with noise and things. And so now I'm like, even showering, I used to shower with music. Now I'm like, okay, I'll just shower quietly. It's the sound of water. What thoughts are coming up? Oh, I'm not feeling well. Or my parents are aging, so they're currently just going through a lot of health issues. Okay, so today what? And just going lightly. I think there's a poem I love that says, go lightly. And so every day I just try. I'm not good at it yet. I'm still learning to just be like, whatever emotions come up. And the thing, like you're saying, you're triggering. I was at the Heart Summit last year and I was talking about death. And they were playing Lingala. Guys, it was a Lingala tune.
Okay, wait.
You know how you have workshops and then there are sessions in between so that like, there's music as people are settling into a space. Yeah. It was Lingala. I think it was Franco.
Oh my goodness.
How did Franco trigger me? Because my uncle... No. And I was crying. So I was like, guys, I'm so sorry. I was not supposed to come here and cry. Like, so you get triggered and it's fine. It could be smells and it's okay. And before I would pretend that I'm not triggered. And I'm like, guys, I'm triggered. That smell, I don't like it. It reminds me of Lee. That smell, I don't, you know. So I'm learning to just be. And how I feel today is how I feel today. How I feel tomorrow is how I feel tomorrow. How you feel today is how you feel today. How you feel tomorrow is how you feel. And it's all good.
You know, the funny thing is, like, I think I got better in having grief as a companion when I allowed whatever feeling it manifests as to just come. Like when I would try and be like, this is the right way to grieve. Like be so
controlling.
Controlling and clinical.
Even emotion. I need you to come on Friday at 10 a.m. because I'm
not
too busy.
Not now. Or like you're feeling it on Monday. You're like, okay, Friday I'll schedule a cry.
Oh, but I also schedule crying.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's something my friend says about grief. I have a friend who lost her parents within a month of each other during COVID. Goodness. And she says I always say she's God's strongest soldier, and we laugh about it because you should not be God's like life. That should not happen. That is an anomaly. Yeah. But the thing she always says about her grief is grief demands to be felt.
Oh my God, yes. It doesn't, and it's very disrespectful.
My friend, you can run. your lashes will fall off now. If your grief comes calling, just in readiness, just remove. So grief demands to be felt, and we should allow it. The same way we allow joy, the same way we allow whatever emotion. It is what it is, and it's okay. And even when it's not okay, it's still okay, because it just is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it.
So to the person watching this, what is the next smallest step they can take to better prepare for death? Like, even formulating the sentence, I'm just like, what, Joy, why are we saying this? But you know what I mean?
Talk about it. Talk about it with people who allow you to talk about it. One of the things I wanted to do, I have a friend who runs a practice called the Soul Shelter, and we're going to start this year something called the Death Cafe.
Okay.
Where we invite people, whether you're dealing with anticipatory grief or dealing with your own mortality or the death of a loved one, we just gather and talk about all these emotions that it seems there's no space for everyone outside of therapy to talk about. Because sometimes you don't want therapy.
Yeah.
You just want to sit in a space and say,
you can say it.
Fuck. What the fuck is going? What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know? And the reason I want to partner with Soul Shelter is because I am aware I do not have the tools to manage some emotions. I can trigger the conversation, I can guide it, but I'm not too sure what to do with what comes up for you. So just a small intimate space where we can, what the fuck and why the hell?
And why me even?
And why me? And what am I? And how does life? You know? And I don't want to call it grief care because that's not what it is.
That's still so clinical.
Because grief care is like, now you'll be guided. It's not, let's just sit and what the fuck. Maybe I should call it what the fuck cafe.
Maybe, because I feel like, first, please invite me, number one. And also because I didn't know anyone else it sounds dumb, but like I didn't know anyone else experiences death until way after my mom died. So in the moment I was just like, this is only happening to me. And like, what the hell, you know?
It's interesting. I'm not so active on my Death Doula page, but on my main page, on my Instagram page, sometimes I talk about grief. And there are these guys and death. There are some people who are able to articulate, like give a word to the emotion. And sometimes when someone is able to give you a word to the emotion, you feel normal, right? And so if you can sit in a space where you're like, hiya,
Exactly.
Right? I mean, if you can just create a space where we're not going to tell you now, after you leave here, turn left, turn right. It's, you're here. This is what's come up for you. Let's sit in it and not be awkward. Because the other thing we have a habit of doing is like for jangles. So we will surround you for 2-3 weeks.
And then we're gone.
Then you're in Shags. And then you come to Nairobi and you're like, wait. Where's everyone? And I feel like that period after, I'm not discounting the support that people give you during. It's that period after where you need someone to be like, Adelle, what's up? Come out of the house. Let's go for a drive or whatever it is. And so we rush people. We rush people to heal. We rush people. And the grief never ends. So now that it never ends, let's create a space where we can come. I'm scared of dying. I'm scared my mom is dying. My mom has died. I'm scared. I'm sick. It's terminal. Whatever that conversation is around death, let's create a space. Let's create conversation. Start talking. Make it awkward for your friends. Say, have you thought about your death? You, what do you want when you die? Make it awkward for your sister. So now that your life is changing, what's up? What's the plan? What are we going to do? And not in a way that it's heavy. You're like, oh my God, we're all going to die.
We're all like, the mood is gone.
Not in that way. I think when we have the conversation when in a light way, as strange as that sounds, then we normalize it. Then we are less afraid, or we have companions in our fear.
And we normalize the heavy feelings as well.
And it's okay.
Yeah, because we don't have the conversation, even the heavy feelings that come with grief, you think you're doing grief wrong because you're falling, in your eyes, it's like, I'm falling apart, but I'm not seeing anybody else.
Oh, everyone in my DMs, everyone is just like, man, I thought about, everyone is falling apart. And when we stop masking, we normalize it and we're all better for it.
Joy, thank you so much.
You.
Like, this is so, like, you've validated so many things, but you've also injected like thought points. And kind of like the conversation, as we say, normalizing the conversation has to start even with self. Of like, actually, I've never really thought about my own death, or what is a good death for me? And then what do I have to get ready so it's easier on my loved ones. So I think you're doing a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Please invite me, and I will share with our community when your death cafe is going to be.
I will.
Even saying it, I can just imagine my grandma hearing a death cafe and being like, please.
What nonsense is that?
What are you guys up to? But, it's revolutionary and you're pioneering something.
Thank you.
Thank you for making time to be on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And I hope you enjoyed this episode. If there's something you connected with, please drop it in the comments. In the caption, we put links for you to connect with Joy. If there's something you want to ask her directly or you want to know more about the work she does and the upcoming Death Cafe. But until then, make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss the next episode.